everyone, welcome to Coffee and Careers with A&A Business Marketing Houston. I'm Cindi Boudreau, your host. We are coming to you live from 2020 Exhibit's virtual event studio. So before we get started, just want to give you a couple of things. We're going to have a 40-minute conversation followed by Q&A. And then after that, we will answer y'all's questions. So as we are going through our discussion, just put your questions in Q&A and we'll get to them after the discussion. You can also put your comments in chat or any insights that you have. Also, if you are a job seeker, please put your name and what titles you're looking for in the chat as well. And if you're comfortable with it, share your LinkedIn profile so we can help you network. This conversation is being recorded and a link will be distributed to attendees after the session. So I am really excited to have with us today 3 marketing executives. We're going to talk about what they're seeing in the market and then also what they look for when they are looking for new hires. So first I have with us Chris Ferris. And Chris is Vice President of Digital Strategy at Pierpont, where he drives value for his clients by developing strategies that support their overall business goals. His strengths lie in helping organizations embrace new digital technologies to meet evolving customer expectations, including online advertising, SEO, website design, social media, and analytics. Chris is a lecturer at Rice University, holds a Master of Arts in Communication from the University of Pennsylvania and a doctorate in health policy from the University of Texas Health Center in Houston. Welcome, Chris.
Thanks.
Jeannette Sanders is a Global Marketing Director for 2020 Exhibits, where she guides the strategic business development, marketing, and communication efforts. She directs brand strategy, digital strategy, interactive experiences, social media marketing, content creation, creative, SEO, SEM, and events for the firm. With 19 years of experience in the marketing and advertising industry, her client focus and creative approach have netted lifelong client relationships and proven bottom-line results. During her career, Jeannette has built and led omni-channel, global creative and marketing teams that have won hundreds of honors and awards. Welcome, Jeannette.
Thank you for having me.
And Richard Byrd is president of BlueByrd Strategic Sales and Marketing. Richard strives to help his clients reach their full potential. By combining experience in brand management with a command of the latest digital marketing tactics, he works with clients to help them drive market impact. Richard takes a strategic view of his clients' businesses, ensuring that their sales and marketing strategy, online engagement, sales efforts, and business goals are all aligned. Prior to his current role, Richard was a strategic consulting with Pennebaker and global creative director for Schlumberger. Welcome, Richard.
Yeah, thanks, Cindi.
I'm so glad all of y'all could be here in person today and honored to be able to have this conversation with you. I'm really looking forward to it. I want to start out by talking about what you're seeing in the market with your clients. Have they made any pivots in their messaging or services? And then also on the agency side, are you seeing more or less of any services and have you made any pivots? So Chris, I will start with you.
Thanks, Cindi, and thanks for having us here today. It's a pleasure to be talking to everybody online. Thanks for joining the webinar. So your first question was, what have some of our clients done, right? So we've seen sort of 2 approaches. One approach is where some clients have completely turtled. They've said, you know what, we don't know what's happening, we don't know what the future brings, so they've withdrawn, they've either reduced or cut their contracts with Pierpont or other agencies, and they're just sort of turtling in, trying to ride this out. The other half of our clients have done completely the opposite. They've said, you know what, we see this as an opportunity, we see this as a chance for us to grow our market share and to be more aggressive, and that's sort of the other way that our clients have approached this situation.
How about you, Jeannette?
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for being here today. Well, we're in the exhibit business, so what we have seen is a complete disruption. Events has been canceled, conferences have been canceled, and have made a huge impact in the industry. And this industry is a $1.1 billion industry. And that was before coronavirus. So we have no choice that pivot and rethink of how we're going to help our clients conduct business. And what we've done is we got out of our comfort zone, is what we actually talk about every day when we come in, and thought about ways of helping our clients go back to business, to be, doing what they knew best. And one of those ways is doing something like this. We have launched these virtual event studio to allow them to have a hybrid experience if they want to. We all know Zoom and webinars like this is what's on the table right now.
Right.
And what we need to focus on. So we're helping our clients doing this. We're doing it in a way with health measures. We have the fortune of having a full department of fabrication, which allows us to, if we dream it, we concept it, we can fabricate it, we can make it. So we are rethinking of ways of reconfiguring corporate interiors so our clients can go back to work. So we're creating hand sanitizer stations, wayfinding with decals. We actually have some digital thermometers. We're doing a lot of different things to help going back to work and allowing them to have the communication with their clients and their customers in the way we're living today, which is digital and virtual.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad that you pivoted into the virtual event studio, because this is really cool. How about you, Richard?
Yeah, just to add on to what Chris said, I see customers that turtle up, and there's some others that want to take advantage of it. But I think one thing that I've seen that's different about this downturn than some of the other downturns that I've run into in my career, and I've had several, none quite like this one. But one of the things that we see a lot is that marketing, in the past, that marketing was the first thing to go. I mean, people turtled up, they really relied on their sales force to go out there and stay close to their customers, but they cut back on their marketing. Right. And the thing that's been different about this one is their salespeople have a very hard time getting in front of the customers. Customers are very distracted. They're tired of, have Zoom fatigue. And so what a lot of our clients have done is said, you know what, we're not going to cut back on marketing. We have to think differently, and we have to execute from more of a marketing standpoint than a sales standpoint. And so I've seen several of our clients get more aggressive and at this time, which is a good thing for us.
Right.
Absolutely.
I'd like to add on to that too, Richard. So that's one of the things that Pierpont has decided to do. So typically, we generate our own business by speaking at events like this, but usually they're in a big, crowded group, or we're going to lunches or happy hours or meetings or conferences. So we are used to being out and meeting people and developing new business for Pierpont itself in person. That's essentially impossible right now. And so, like I said, some companies have withdrawn. We've expanded our digital marketing, and we are really doubling down on making sure that our website is as good as it can be, that our lead generation is as efficient as it can be, and we're increasing spending on our digital advertising, because that's where we're getting most of our leads now. And to their credit, some of our other clients are doing the same thing. They're saying, we can't get in front of people like we're used to, so the best way to get in front of people is to increase the digital spend, because it's much easier now to get in front of people online, because everybody's online all day.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's so true. But coming from business development, I get that. I can't do what I normally do, and so that makes a lot of sense. Given what you guys are seeing in the market, do you see new roles or new skill sets that are starting to be more in demand? A lot of times I have candidates talk to me and say, what should I be learning, or what are some of the roles that you're seeing? And I can answer, but also I'd like to hear from y'all what you're seeing. Richard, do you want to?
Yeah, sure. So, along the lines of what Chris was saying, and Jeannette, is that people are, we're going digital, right? So we need people with digital skills, and we need to amp that up inside the marketing world and the agency world. And one of the things that I've always thought about is this kind of a continuation of what's been going on since I started my career, right? And I like to think of them as gateway jobs. So jobs that you can use to break into the industry. Sure. And one of the ones that, when I started, I knew how to use a computer, right? I knew how to use Cork and Photoshop, and the art directors at the agencies that I started at didn't know how to, and they're like, get in here, kid, help us out with this. So I became their, it was kind of my way in. And the thing I see today is social media seems to be the gateway job. So people who are experienced at social media, and by the way, everybody's coming into the market right now is a social media expert because they've been doing it their whole life.
Yeah.
And so, that's a great job to kind of break into the marketing industry right now because a lot of people need it. Social media is a major channel when I look at a lot of my clients' digital channels.
Yeah. Chris, I imagine you're seeing some of the same, but why don't you?
Yeah, I want to expand on what Richard said, which is yes, digital is important, and yes, within digital, social media is important. But if a young person comes to me and I say, well, what digital experience do you have? What social media experience do you have? And they say, oh, I love TikTok. I'm on TikTok all the time. That is not what I think you mean when you say they should have social media experience. That's necessary, but not sufficient.
Sure.
So we need, for my purposes, I need somebody who's not only familiar with social media, but understands that each social media channel is different depending on the audience you're trying to reach, right? If your target audience for your product or your business or your service is white men over 45, TikTok is not going to do you any good. As a white man over 45, I know my kids are on TikTok and I understand it, but I'm not a real TikTok user. And so it's not enough just to say, yeah, I'm on TikTok all the time. You have to understand how social media works and why different channels work differently for different audiences. And so don't just say, I like social media, because that's not going to cut it. The other thing I would say is that the paid part of social media is equally important these days. You can reach a lot of people on social media organically, but to have the ability or the facility to transition and set up a paid campaign, whether it's on Instagram or LinkedIn or Facebook or even TikTok or Snapchat, that's really important because organic will only get you so far in most cases, and increasingly our clients are having to rely on paid social media.
Yeah, well, I've seen some of your TikTok moves and some of your TikTok dances, and don't underrate yourself. So pretty good stuff.
I'm very well coached by my 18-year-old daughter.
I have never been on TikTok. So, Jeannette, what do you?
Well, what I've seen is actually a change on configuration of the teams.
Okay.
Meaning, yes, I agree with both you guys. Definitely digital is where we're going. This is the world we're living in, and be very strong about it. But for internal teams, because of all the change in the turmoil, the change has changed the configuration. Now, where we used to have a model of a lot of specialties, now we have people that are more generalists. They have to be able to tackle a lot of different things. And for candidates that are going into the market, it's not enough to have 2 or 3 skill sets. You have to have a lot more than that. And most importantly, you have to think strategically so you can solve problems quicker. That is the mindset. Yes, there's all these channels. They're available for us to do all this. And definitely people with that skill, they have to think about what is the client's message, what do they want to convey, what their goals and their objectives are, to then determine what platform I'm going to use, what is necessary. Not all of it works for everything. I have to think about those, what is the client all about? And put that message out there.
That makes sense, and be generalist and be able to think big picture and get. I have a kind of a question on top of that, and I know you have to be able to work across all these channels. I see, like, if you do a mind cloud or something on look up and you see hundreds of channels, and I know you can't know everything. Do you have like specific channels that if someone's on the B2B side they should know, or a B2C side, or some of your clients use that y'all can talk about a little bit?
So I think it goes back to just basic advertising and marketing, right? You got to go where the eyeballs are, and it depends on your client and who they're trying to talk to. And we at BlueByrd, we stay strictly into the B2B space, and so LinkedIn is the king for B2B. I mean, you've got to know you've got to understand that platform for sure for our clients. Another one is Instagram, is a very popular one for our clients, and just to kind of go back to what Chris was saying earlier, I think one of the things that's important is that you're able to take an analytical view of these things, because I think a lot of times what we see a lot of time with our with kind of our younger employees is that they maybe say, here's the results of our of our LinkedIn campaign, right. And you go, okay, well, great, we got this many clicks and this many views and all these great things. Well, what's next?
What do we do now?
What do we do with this? What do we do with this information? Because if I would just need a dashboard, we got a dashboard. What are we going to do? What actions are we going to take? How are we going to think about this differently? How's this going to inform our strategy going forward? Did we capture the eyeballs we were looking to? Did we reach our goals? These kinds of things.
Right, right, okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jeannette, sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, to add to what Richard was saying, is yes, data is important. Analyzing that data is important, but it becomes meaningless if you don't have a concise message and you understand the goals and the objectives and the value propositions of those clients. You can have all the information in the world you want out there. They have to have a purpose. They have to have a way to track it. You have to quickly jump into new campaigns and new things. It's a volume game sometimes as well.
Right.
I think to add on to what the two of you just said is, if you can figure out how to determine ROI for a digital campaign, then that is money in the bank. If you can go to a client and say, look, you're paying us this much money per month, we're spending this much on your advertising campaign, correct, and we're getting you this many leads, and your leads are worth this much, or even better, we're getting you this many conversions, and your conversions are worth that much, then you can go back and say, all right, well, we spent this amount, but we generated this amount, so you've got a positive ROI. And if you can show that to your clients, that's so valuable, and it proves your worth as well. Absolutely. As an agency.
Absolutely.
But if you're a young person trying to get into, especially the digital marketing business, there's an old joke that advertisers used to say, I know half my advertising works, I don't just know which half. But now with digital, you can you can usually tell which half is working. And if you are a young person getting into digital marketing, you need to be able to understand that. You don't need to have a degree in statistics, but you need to understand how to calculate ROI on something. And it's so fundamental. And if you can bring that to the table, that's really powerful. Now you need other things like creative skills and intelligence and ability to understand messaging and all that stuff. But if you can tie back the spend to the benefit for the company or for the client, that's powerful.
That's great.
I will add also, because on the exhibit business, lead generation, you have to generate leads. How do you do that?
Right.
That's the question I have to think about.
Okay.
I want to go back to the initial question you asked about
what
what channel should you be focused on?
Yes,
As Richard
yes.
wisely said, for
Okay.
B2B businesses, LinkedIn is where it's at, and he also made a very good case for Instagram as well. For B2C clients, it's really it's much more complicated.
Yeah.
You can't just say, oh, Facebook. You should probably start with Facebook first, but not necessarily. Again, if your audience skews younger people aren't on Facebook anymore. They're not. That's where your grandma and your grandpa are on it. It's so embarrassing. OMG, my parents tagged me in Facebook. So younger people are not on Facebook as much as they once were. So you need to look at Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok.
I'm not a grandmother, but I'm on Facebook. So real quickly, I just want to make sure that y'all are sending your questions in. We're going to get to them and hope that this is some good information. Something that I would say to the young job seekers out there that don't have the experience in digital advertising, marketing, etc., and I say it every time we talk, is volunteer. ANA Business Marketing Houston has a great communications committee. AMA, HEMA, there's so many places that you can go and get that experience, because when you go in an interview, my clients are going to ask you, how did you determine ROI on a campaign? And you want to be able to demonstrate that you've done that.
I want to add one more thing.
Sure.
If you are a young person and you're trying to get your first job or you're in between jobs, it's completely worth your time to get certified in Google Analytics and or Google Ads.
Totally.
Yes.
It's free. It takes time and it takes effort, but if you can go into a job and say, I'm already certified in Google Ads or I'm already certified in Google Analytics, that shows initiative and it shows that you understand the numbers behind it and how it works. So It's free. It's completely worth doing as a young person.
Yeah. I don't know if anyone heard me whisper when Chris said that, because I thought I knew where he was going, which was to suggest that someone intern. But you have 3 places here that you could reach out to and see if they need some free help or some, paid internship or something. So I'm going to now go on to something that I think a lot of people on this webinar are very interested in, is if you were to hire your next person, thinking about what we've talked about, what future roles there are going to be, what kind of skills would you be looking for in that next hire, and what will they be able to demonstrate to you to get hired onto your team? Richard?
Oh, that's a good one. So we are pretty small, so there's just 2 of us at BlueByrd, so we're not we're not hiring a bunch of people, but I think we would be looking for somebody, obviously we talked about digital skills, that's kind of a must-have for sure, but we're looking for somebody that's more of a generalist, to kind of help and fill in a lot of different areas. A small company like BlueByrd, we have to wear all the hats. So I make the coffee, I help with strategic plans for my clients. So I think it's one of those things where we would need somebody that has a lot of skills that they could come in. And also, I think one of the things that I look for in an employee is, I've always done this, and I think it's a good practice, is I look for lifelong learners. So I think that is a really important skill set, because our world is changing so fast, and I only see the changes in the marketing world grow every year. I mean, I think the pace picks up every year. The stuff you got to learn increases every year. And so what I look for is somebody that's going to be able to take the initiative, has some natural curiosity, and is going to want to learn new things. And so I try to vet that out in the interview process by asking them, what do they do to stay sharp in their skills? Right. And that's something that if they, you can tell if they have a good answer to that or not pretty quickly, right? Because they're like, well, I'm a big Game of Thrones fan. Well, that's good, but that's not going to help me grow my customers' revenue. But if they say, listen to this marketing podcast, the last book I read was really good, and it was about this, and I follow these blogs. Yeah. You got yourself a winner. You got somebody that's going to be able to be agile, flexible, and learn things as they come up.
Right. Mm-hmm. Chris?
Yeah, sure. So I did bring a prop today that I'm going to show in just a minute. I promised that on Twitter yesterday that I had a prop. So what Richard said is completely right, and I would even expand on that, which is, you're not going to come to a new job with every skill that is needed. If you are, you're probably overqualified for that job. What I look for is somebody who has a certain amount of skills, but the ability to, as Richard said, have curiosity and the ability to learn and adapt. So if you come to me as somebody who has a certain amount of skills, but also has demonstrated the ability to learn new skills and to adapt and adjust and be curious, that's more important. And as we were talking about this when we were discussing what we were going to review in this meeting here today, I was reminded of this book that I read. Here's my prop. This is not a product placement because I didn't write it. This is a book called Range by a guy named David Epstein, and the point of this book is that the world is changing, as Richard said, so quickly, and if you get stuck in a lane, your career and what's interesting to you is going to be very limiting. So if you say, I am a Facebook advertising expert, that's great, and if you're at a really big agency and that's all you do all day long, but you're probably going to be stuck in the Facebook advertising lane for most of your career. If you have the ability to pivot and say, you know what, I can also write copy, or you know what, I can also do graphics, or you know what, I can also run some analytics. The more skills you have and the more your ability to think about things outside of the lane in which you may have started is so important. And that's sort of the point of his whole book, which is that people who have range and are able to think about problems in different ways, in creative ways, are usually much more successful longer term in their careers. You may start off kind of frustrated because you're in this sort of generalist position where you have to sort of do everything, wear every hat, but the more hats you wear and the more you're able to pivot and think about things differently, the more successful you're going to be in attacking and approach and solving problems as you go forward in your career. So I recommend this book. It was great.
Jeannette?
Yes, I agree with you too. Adaptable and teachable. I remember we said that last time. That is half the battle. I also look for the soft skills. I want to know how they can tackle problems, and also what is their personality and their expertise, and how that's going to merge well with my team. If it's a direct hire for me, it have to be able to complement all of the skill sets that my team already has. If not, it's very disruptive. And the soft skills of a go-getter or someone with a very positive attitude that is very eager to learn and to try new things, especially in the business that I am in, it is priceless.
Right.
It's priceless and they'll enjoy their job a lot more. They're learning every day, so they're building a career.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, I'm going to ask a question to maybe give our viewers some insights into how to interview and interview tips. Jeannette, what do you, so you look for these things, but what do you do in an interview process to try to find some of that out?
I mostly go into that interview already know as much as I can about the candidate. I've read that resume several times. I have researched and I've looked at everything they have in social media. So I do all of that background work.
So you look at their social media?
I look at everything because that tells me those soft characteristics and the personality and some of that. And then I go into the interview. I'm usually very chill and conversational, and I want to learn about them. I want to see uniqueness. I want to see folks that bring something better than what I have. I try to hire people that are better than me, and I'm very self-aware of what my shortcomings are, and I'm looking for folks that can fill those in. It has to complement, to me, is a teamwork effort. So if that candidate fits that team culture that I have built, then they're in a good spot.
Okay, great. Let me real quickly add something, because you brought something up that I want to focus in on for a second. Social media, you just heard from a hiring manager that they go out and look at social media. I'm imagining it's not just LinkedIn. Yeah, so, you know, you can't have a picture of yourself, you know, doing a beer bong on Facebook just because it's a social networking site while you're job searching. Be sure, you don't have to be buttoned up and completely professional, but just bear in mind that what you have on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, those kinds of profiles a hiring manager can find. I've told a story before about someone that was interviewing, and the hiring manager called us up, and they had looked on their Facebook, and their Facebook profile highlighted the fact that they were a naked DJ. And I had to call the candidate and ask him, is so-and-so whatever naked DJ you? And he said, no, that's not me. So the other thing you need to do is make sure your name is very, if you're John Smith, make sure that your John Smith can be found. You don't want to have anyone misunderstand and think that a profile that's you is, or that is not you, is you. So make sure you look and find what people will find when they search you. So that's my little comment on that. Richard, what about you? How do you?
Yeah, well, you know, and to kind of complement what you said, you know, we're, as a person that's hiring, it's a risky behavior to hire somebody, and so you're looking to fill in a picture of what do you think you're going to get. So gathering that social media information, all those things is important. I kind of start out, I'm super nerdy in my process, and so what I do is I think about the skill sets that we're going to need, the soft skills, to your point, Jeannette, of what we're looking for in that person. What does a successful person look like in this job? You know, and I will go in and I will ask questions that get to those kinds of things. And I have a notebook that I always carry around with me, and I actually have a little matrix in there, and I'll rank that person depending on the answers I get based off of their questions. And then, you know, usually I interview several people for a position, And then I look at the, I compare. So this person was a 6 when I asked them a question about, they kind of got it, are they good with customers, right? If they're gonna have a relationship with our clients, it's a very important skill. Right. So, and if I rank this person a 10, I rank this person a 6, well, that helps me make my decision as I go, because I find that when you interview 5 or 6 people, it can blur together, and you're like, was that the one that said this? And I get them to tell me stories, but I ask very pointed questions about those skills. A friend of mine is a hiring guru, and he had a great story, and he said, if you're looking for a hardworking person, then you got to ask hardworking questions. Right. And so he says, well, tell me a story about the hardest job you've ever had and what you learned from it. Mm-hmm. And the guy that told him, the thing said, I was a dishwasher at a Chinese food restaurant. Oh. And you go, and I learned that wet rice is heavy. And you go, whoa, what a great story. So what do you learn from that, right? Well, first off, the guy was a Caucasian guy, and he's working as a dishwasher at a Chinese food restaurant. And he was ready to work hard. So you know this person is a hard worker, and he's got a sense of humor about things. So this is probably somebody you want to have around. So that person for me would get hardworking. I would give them a 10, and then I would say sense of humor, 10. Right, great. So this person just scored well on two things that I'd probably be looking for that.
Right. That's great. And for job seekers, the thing that you can take from this is one of the reasons why you want to find the keywords in job descriptions and make sure you're able, if team player is through there 3 or 4 times, or customer service, and focus on customer service is there, you want to have your stories ready. Your star stories. So what was the situation, what was the task, what was your action, what was the result, and be able to articulate that back when you're asked some of these questions. And usually at the bottom of the job description, you have things like hardworking and the little soft skills that you hear Richard talking about. So Chris, what about you?
I would say that if you're being brought in to be interviewed for a job, it's because we really think you might be a good fit. Like we don't bring in people just to be like, sorry, we don't bring people into interview because we want to be cruel and not hire you. When you're brought in for an interview, it's because we think you might be a good match, and we would love it if you were like, I'm going to hire him as soon as that person gets out the door. So you do have to sell yourself, but also just be yourself, I think is what I would say. Because you're there because we've looked at your resume, we've maybe talked to some of your references, and we think this person is a good match for what I want. And then from there, it's kind of what my 2 friends here have said, it's a lot of the soft skills. Do I think this person is going to fit in with the culture at our business? Is this person somebody that I want to see a couple hours a day? It's a little bit different now since most of us are working remotely, but when you're in an office, you talk to somebody, you have lunch with them, you have coffee with them, sometimes you're driving to a client meeting with them, and you want to have somebody that you want to at least spend a couple hours a day talking to about things. It doesn't mean you have to be best friends, but you have to have some sort of a connection or a rapport with this person, and you can't fake that. So prepare yourself, but also be yourself at an interview.
That's great. I have another question. Since y'all have had careers where you've hired marketing teams, a lot of them are communicators, content writers, designers. Is it important for them to have a portfolio? What do you look for in portfolios? Can they bring it in on paper to you? Just kind of give me your thoughts on portfolios for designers and writers.
Yes.
I'll let y'all go.
Yes, if you are a writer, you have to have a portfolio. Now, writing is different because oftentimes it goes through a committee of things, of other people who are writing and editing what you've done. But if you are the primary author of something, you should be able to at least have a link to it, right? You can say, I will email you the links to all these things that I've written. Or if you're a designer or a graphics person, I'll let Richard talk more about this. But yes, you should absolutely have a portfolio. In person's fine, digital one is fine, but you have to have a well-organized, easy-to-access portfolio of some sort for writers or graphic designers.
I will add to that, when you say writers, if anyone that's hearing me right now have a good writer, hug them, bring them coffee every day. they are the most amazing people in your team because they are dictate and help you with that message. So,
right.
And when it comes to actually hiring them and bringing them in, the portfolio is very important. Now, many confuse that they have to have a portfolio that is overly done, or you put way too much effort into it and too much work, where you actually start losing a little bit of yourself because you're just cramming with things. You don't have to do that. You can relax. You can have a little bit of, if you have a good LinkedIn and you have some examples and some links, that always goes well with me. I just want to see unique, very creative, in how they solve those problems. I'm not interested for cookie cutter or something that I've seen a million times. You know, I'm interested in that, something special, talent that comes in. There are so many different specialties that just show what are you best at. And yes, do bring a portfolio, bring examples, be prepared to talk about them. Don't bring those big books anymore.
Okay.
You guys know what I'm talking about.
Bring
They're
something
heavy.
like this, right, that you can show.
Come digital and come ready to actually jump on a computer and start pulling things up, because I actually do that when I'm interviewing.
Okay.
So.
Okay, great.
Quality, not quantity, is what I heard from you, Jeannette.
Yes.
Yes. How about recent versus something I did 10 years ago?
Honestly, sometimes that's tricky, and it depends also with what we've seen, you know, in the industry. There are famous pieces of work for a few years back that when you see it again, you go, "Ah, you did this with your team?"
Sure.
That's awesome. That's phenomenal. Yes, I don't mind seeing that. It doesn't have to be everything recent.
Got it.
And if it's been someone that has jumped through different places, just bring the best pieces of each place. It doesn't mean that they have to be boxed into that last job. You know, sometimes it's like if I was a marketing director at my last job, that means that's the only thing I can go into. There's always other avenues, so they should show a little bit more of everything.
Okay, great. How about you, Richard?
Well, so I see it two ways. If you're, especially we talked a lot about writers, but for designers, I want to see that you have a portfolio website. And I want to see that before you come in, because I'm going to look at that before I'm even going to call you. So if you don't have and we just talked about how digital is so important. If you can't design for web and you can't present a portfolio, you're going to have a hard time in the agency world today. So I think that is the big one. But then, kind of different from Jeannette, I want to see the old school blackboard files when you come in. And why I say that is because I'm looking at from a marketing firm, ad agency side, and what we're looking for is, can you present to customers? Because if you can't present to me, you're not going to be able to present in front of a customer.
Right.
And if you can't, designers who cannot present to clients are not going to be as successful in their career as designers who can present, right? And so your presentation skills are going to be important. I'm going to want to see it. I'm going to want you to tell stories about it. I want to hear your rationale for why you made everything that's on that piece. Should have had thought behind it. I want to hear what your thought process was. So I want to hear you explain it. So I'm going to grill you a little bit more as a recovering art director.
Yeah, right.
And so that's an important one. And for writers, and this goes for both, I want to see, are you passionate about this? If you don't identify as a writer and you don't identify that you're at your core, you're a designer, you're not going to be as successful, I don't think, in your career. And so I look for writers, I want you to show me your blog that you write for fun on the weekends. All right, I want to see that you are a writer, and that's something you can't fake and you can't, just kind of throw together before an interview.
Sure.
So if you want to be a writer for your career, write all the time. Write blogs, write books, write white papers, write for fun, and then show that prior to your interview.
Perfect. Now this is the perfect clip that I can share with writers and designers when they ask me, why do I have to have an online portfolio or samples? So I'm gonna go into, it looks like we have some questions. So I have a follow-up question for Chris. What percentage of your clients see this environment as an opportunity?
It's about 60-40, I would say. 60 say, this is an opportunity, we're going to double down on digital, we're going to redouble our efforts on PR, we're going to look at this as an opportunity to take some market share. And probably 10 or 20% are just sort of, now let's keep it level, and then the balance have withdrawn.
Okay, okay. And just in case I didn't say it, we're going into Q&A right now. So if you have any additional questions, send them in and we'll get to them. So this one, let's see, we have discussed a lot of things, a lot of digital, but as things begin to ease, a lot of people have an appetite for more in-person events. What are your visions for how things will be different in short and long term as we are starting to have more in-person events? I'll start with you, Jeannette.
I'll take this one. Can I have this one? Let me put it this way. What we're living right now with digital and virtual is another opportunity to be able to be in front of our clients. Hybrid, virtual, digital doesn't replace this that we're having, the chemistry, the human side of us humans. So I see moving forward more of the merging of the two and being able to get them working together. Face-to-face is going to happen sooner than we expect. We will be running like crazies again, putting all these events and these shows everywhere. Yay. And in the meantime, I take it as this is a transformational place where everything is evolving to balance things out and get them all together. Face-to-face events are a thrill. They're wonderful. Everybody enjoys them. Clients we have clients that have 60 to 100 shows a year that they do this every year because obviously this is generating business for them. So if I want to add also, I have to say we came into the year 2020 with our previous campaign, which it was Let's Grow 2020 with 2020 exhibits. And we have to transform to that because the year 2020 and our name made us a little trick there that we were not expecting. Right. But the experience and how nimble we are, it will get everybody back into work. You know, have fun with that and embrace hybrid and virtual and doing this more often. Our clients, when we talk to them, they're dying to go back to talk to customers face to face. And if we can do it in this fashion with health measures that we are providing, then we can get to that balance once again.
How about you, Chris?
One of the things that Jeannette said, it's something that all three of us have said many times, is adaptability is so important because whether it's technology that's changing or the health environment is changing or there's some other change that could occur in 2021 that none of us are foreseeing, the ability to be adaptive and nimble and agile and think differently and to be flexible and to come up with new solutions and not to be so stuck in your old ways, those are all the same way of saying the same thing, is you've got to be flexible. You've got to be able to adapt. And if you don't have those skills, you're going to have a hard time succeeding, whatever industry you're in, but particularly in the marketing space.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree with Chris 100%.
What do you think, Richard? In person,
well,
events, what's going
I
on?
cannot wait to get back in person. I never thought I'd say this, but I miss trade shows. I mean, you know, they're a lot of work for marketers, right, to get up to it, and you never really like looking forward to you know, all the work that you do going up to it. But man, I'm an extrovert, and you know, quarantine is a tough thing on an extrovert, and you know, and it hurts my business as well too, because I'm a big believer in in-person workshops. Chris was talking about this. He, you know, he teaches at Rice, and you know, he said the Zoom classes are hard, and I'll talk more about that. But you know, for in-person workshops where you're trying to get a lot of information out of people, you know, you just cannot. You can't tell if they're engaged or not. You know, you just see this little face on the screen, and you don't know if the energy in the room's low. And well, you do know the energy in the room's low because it's always low on a Zoom call.
Yeah, right.
And so, you know, I can't wait to get back to, you know, normal. And we do know the new normal is not going to be the same as it was post. So there's going to be some things I think that come back slower and some things that come back faster. But I think what I'm hearing from my clients and people I talk to is that people are really tired of this whole thing, and they're ready to get back in person with people.
Yep. Jeannette, let me ask you, I think when we talked last week, was it I don't remember, but you mentioned that, you know, kind of how your clients had staggered out and how they were extending out their in-person. Can you elaborate on that? Like what?
Yes, and some is not our clients, is the actual shows and the conferences.
Like an OTC or
the OTCs, the shows in McCormick Smith in Las Vegas. That they have made these decisions to cancel these shows, and they have postponed. And it's been a 7 to 8 months learning for everyone in this industry, what doesn't work. Some have done a good job on virtual, some have done a horrible job of virtual. Some have already made decisions to take shows extended from 2021. But again, it's still an opportunity because our clients need to do what they do best. It's business. They need to conduct business. And what we are easing them, helping them realize is that you don't have to stop doing business. There are ways that this can happen, and you can have it a little bit with hybrid, a little bit with digital, and then face-to-face will come in. Once you have those platforms and that technology set, and you do it in a exciting, animated, enjoyable, entertaining way, then you'll break from the Zoom fatigue.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully this, I mean, an example is this. This was kind of fun, different, innovative. It's so nice to be able to see you guys in person. And we were all walking around earlier with our masks on, and then came and got in our spot and took them, you know, and so we were very socially distanced and you know, careful, but this has just been great.
Yeah, and I got to wear a tie for the first time in 6 months. Yeah, I know. I put on shoes, so.
Hopefully everyone's enjoyed it. I really have. Keep sending your questions. We have another probably 10 minutes. I do have a follow-up question for when we were talking about the portfolio. Someone asked, do you ever use skill tests or have candidates complete kind of a project or something as part of the interview process?
Yes, we have. So Pierpont is primarily a PR agency. We do a lot of digital as well, but we're primarily known, and most of our clients hire us for PR. And yes, we absolutely have writing tests for candidates.
Okay. How about either of you guys?
So we did, when I was at Schlumberger, we got fooled by some writers that we thought were going to be the great. Just like Chris said, you think this person's going to be a game changer for us, it's going to be awesome, and then sometimes they're not. And so we decided we were going to institute a test. We already had a grammatical test.
I remember that.
And so that was good. But then we wanted to test the creativity and see how you could write persuasive copy that's fact-based. So we made a test that tested if you could write persuasive copy that's fact-based. And so we had an assignment that we didn't let them take home. We made them take it right there, and it worked really well. And that was I think that is an important way if you're for employers that are not sure if they've maybe made some bad hires in that position. It's a good way to kind of vet out and test people for what you're really looking to have that person accomplish in their role.
Sure. How about you, Jeannette?
What worked for me is I give them a job, meaning a contract work. One project. and let's see how we do. And if we do great, then better for the candidate, better for us. It's a two-way relationship, right? They have to be comfortable, we have to be comfortable. So for what I have done with my team is I've hired a contract basic first and made a project and hire after that. One of my most talented, amazing designers happened that way. And I wouldn't have known just because of their resume. And I'm not saying that is possible in all events, but for me, it works like that sometimes. And now with social and digital, you can do that. And also, when I hire for video content, the same way, they can just cut something for me, and then they'll give me an idea. If they understood what I wanted to say, you know, going through that, because that's a big challenge when we're hiring people. We don't know until we throw them into the fire and then figure out, are they going to sink or swim? You know, what's going to happen? And this way has worked for me.
And you know, I'm going to tie back to something that Richard said that is so true earlier, and I don't think you used these words when we first talked, where you said hiring someone is a risky process. And so, you know, job seekers, if you're going through an interview process that is tough, it is very expensive for employers to bring someone on and, you know, train them up and make sure they're the right person. This is why a lot of my clients have either do like you've done, have a test project that's on a contract basis. Have you take a grammatical test for writing? Have you actually write something? Because a lot of times, you know, they don't know exactly what you have done with the right. Did you just edit it? Did you write it? You know, and so that's the way that they can get through that. Also, I've had clients that have someone throughout the interview process have a marketing person come in and present, so that you know what they're going to be like in front of your clients. That's some of the stuff that we've seen. So just understand that it's not that they're trying to grill you for the sake of, you know, having fun watching you go through this process. It really, on their side, they want to get it right too. So another thing I'll ask you, and keep sending questions in. I think we've gotten through most of them right now, but I'll keep looking. Job seekers ask me all the time, and I talk to marketing people and graphic designers and communications and business development, and the question that I get is, what software should I have? And I say, well, it depends on what you're doing and what company it's for. You know, pull 3 or 4 different job descriptions, find the software that's present through all of them, and those are probably pretty good clues of what you'd be looking for. But anything that you would mention that's critical for the digital people that we're talking about, or anything else?
It gets back to something I've been saying the whole time, which is, if you don't have the exact skill and the exact program that we are looking for, that's okay as long as you've got something comparable, because if you can learn if you can learn this one, I'm pretty sure you can learn this one, right? So if you have demonstrated that you have an adjacent skill or a parallel skill or a particular piece of software that you're familiar with, then, and I'm convinced that you can then take that and adapt it to another one, that's good enough. I mean, obviously we prefer to have the exact software skills that we're looking for, but if all other things being equal, you don't have the exact right one, but we think you're confident enough to be able to adapt and learn a new piece of software, then that's good enough for me.
So for instance, if you know Salesforce CRM or Marketo or Eloqua, one of those, and the company has a different one, then that works, right?
Yeah, so like content management systems. WordPress is sort of the lingua franca of website development these days, but if you haven't done WordPress but you've used Drupal or you've used Joomla or some other one, as long as you've worked in a content management system of some sort, I'm confident, well, you should be confident that you can adapt to learn a new content management system. I've used 7 different content management systems in my career, and they're all different, but there's a certain sameness to them as well. And if you can figure out one and be confident in one kind of content management system, you're probably going to be able to figure out another one. Same thing with CRM systems. You know, HubSpot is a super popular one, but if that's not what you're familiar with, you can learn it if you've used something else.
Yeah, it's put in importance on what you're going to use it for. What problem are you going to solve? And it doesn't have to be the top ones, the big ones, Marketo, Eloqua, all of those. If you are into solving a problem, what is the fastest way? And I will have to double down on HubSpot when you say that, because HubSpot is an incredible source of information and learning. So for people looking out and listening to us right now, go in there. There's so much information somewhere that to learn that you don't necessarily have to know everything about the tools, but how they help you. And I know you have a lot with HubSpot. Don't limit yourself with that. There are many. And you don't know what your client's going to want. So you're going to have to be able to jump on any of the ones above.
Yeah, and I think some, I'm like you guys, I'm very open to, and I will expect them to learn if they don't know it. But some people do get hung up. They might be like a pure HubSpot shop, or they might be like all in on Salesforce. And I think the thing that's great about today is there's this wonderful thing called YouTube. And you can watch a 15-year-old teach you just about anything. And so that part works. If you see that you need to know HubSpot and that's listed in the thing, go and watch all the YouTube videos you can on it, and probably about 3 hours, you'll be ready to step in and get started in whatever platform that they're using.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, great point.
Perfect. Hold on, I'm going to see if the one thing that we're working on is getting some questions to us real quickly from the Q&A. So I'm getting one right now, but we're Richard, will you share your matrix?
Yeah, well, I can. But basically, it's a different for every position, right? So if I know I'm going to hire an account manager, well, first thing on there, are they good with clients, right? And I kind of customize it based on the skill set that is successful in a position. But yeah, I could share that.
Okay, so we'll get that out to you guys. I have one more coming. Let's see. Do you see a heightened value for freelance writing talent amid this pandemic? One of y'all want to take that?
Yes.
I see freelance on everything.
Yeah.
Not just writing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, writing is super important, I think, right now, because, when you say go digital, well, it's going to be, you're going to have content for that. And a lot of times it's going to be the written words, and it's going to be a written script, some it's going to be a video script, an animation script.
Yeah.
And writers are incredibly valuable. It's a craft that I've really have come to respect over the years, and knowing good writers is really good.
Yep.
And if anybody wants the name of a good writer, let me know. I've got several I can.
I will tell you.
Another one that we have, and I'll answer this, and I'll see if y'all have done them. How do you feel about remote Zoom interviews? Doesn't matter how we feel about it, they are what is going on right now. So I've done some tips on video interviews. I can follow up and do another, some tips on video interviews, but we are going to be in video Zoom interviews for the foreseeable future. How about you guys? Have you done any interviews over Zoom? Or?
I have not, so I'll defer to the two of you.
I have not.
Yeah, I have, and I've been the interviewee, right? Because I've been, I've had people reach out to me for new business calls.
Sure.
And that's an interview, right?
Right.
I'm interviewing with them.
Oh. Yeah.
And so, yeah, those are interesting. I think the thing that you want to do in those kinds of a Zoom meeting is the same thing you want to do in person. So bring some energy. Mm-hmm. You don't have to wear shoes, but wear a nice shirt at least.
Yeah.
And speak to your strengths and come with great stories that show your expertise.
Should non-designer marketers have a portfolio?
I would answer it with it depends. So I think if you've got pretty good design skills, even though you don't see yourself as a designer, then yeah, put them out there forward. But if they're not that great and they might hurt you, if an art director or somebody sees it, then just explain that you have some design skills and explain your software knowledge is probably the way I would look at that.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you are a website developer or a website builder, you may not have you can't show them the raw files, but you can say, I worked on designing and developing this website, and provide them links, and that could be used in lieu of an official portfolio.
Sure, yeah.
Let's say if you have AV candidate, make a video clip on all the events you've been and how you have contributed and how you have made an event happen. And if it's marketing and you're going in and you are a designer, you're not a designer, but you're looking for any other niche, then try to explain how you contributed in a team and what was your role.
I'll add to that. So when I was in marketing, I saved all my samples. I'm dating myself, but it was back when most everything was print. So I was able to go into interviews and bring the pieces and the campaigns that I created and walk through. I was the project manager on this. I created the strat and talk through not my design skills, but what I did to coordinate and have something happen. I've also seen candidates that do more of a portfolio of case studies. Actually, I'm going to call out someone that's on the ANA BMA board who did a really good job of it. Shannon Carlson put together an amazing, you probably saw it, Richard, because you hired her eventually.
Yeah, it works. I hired her.
And I have a couple of little examples. I'll see if I can scrub them, if you will, and give some examples of that when I get everything out. But I think that that's a really nice touch to be able to talk to your star stories. SWAT's a different thing. When you bring them in to a conversation with someone who's hiring you, and it's something that you can see not one of these people expected it, but if someone came in with, here's my case studies and walked through it, would you be impressed?
Oh,
Yes.
absolutely.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So we had from Olivia, how do you see the marketing and sales team leveraging technology to align better post-COVID?
I think COVID has served as an accelerant in a lot of things.
Absolutely.
And I think I would assume it's only accelerated the connection between sales or marketing and sales, because so much is being driven by online, and it's relatively easy to measure that as opposed to, glad handing in person, which again is still important, but because the marketing and sales have been driven online, having a good piece of software set up to track your leads and your conversions is more important than maybe it ever has been.
Right.
It has disrupted too. You have to find new ways to talk to each other.
Right.
And when you're used to doing certain things, everybody stays in their lane. Now everybody needs everybody. Yeah. So you get more of that. I've never been more close to my sales team than this last 8 months.
Right. Richard, what are you seeing with your clients, and what do you?
Yeah, so I think, to Chris's point, I think a lot of this stuff's been going on for a long time, and this just accelerated a lot of these things. And Zoom's not going to go anywhere. In fact, you see all these people leaving, big cities to move out to the countryside, and they're doing that because they know that they're going to be able to work from home, and they're going to be dispersed. And so I think those tools are going to be super important, and also to get back to Chris' point about the marketing and sales being aligned. I've always felt like that's an important thing for B2B clients, because usually you can do a lot of marketing, but the salespeople have to close it at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. And if you marketing and sales aren't talking together, if you're just kind of throwing leads over the fence, it's always been a bad situation. Yeah, and relying on CRM data, it's a tough one. So I think that communication that Jeannette was talking about, man, I think in some ways, I think we're all going to be better after this.
That's kind of the nice thing about COVID, right? Is now, it always has to be hand in hand, but it's kind of forced that. Another thing that I've seen with clients that I had a lot of very large clients prior to COVID that were working on digital transformation and getting their employees remote. I've seen that speed up too. So any kind of ability for remote workers and remote, Microsoft Teams, those kinds of communication devices. I think most people have gotten it in place, and now that they have it, I don't think they'd go back. And so that's been something that we've seen. From Elizabeth, do you see a heightened value? Oh, we already asked that. So let's see, which industries are thriving in your opinion?
Zoom.
Technology.
Technology
Oh
companies.
my
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah.
Technology.
Yeah.
Technology.
Zoom, Netflix.
Netflix.
Got a bunch of subscribers.
I have a different perspective coming from a recruiting, seeing which clients are hiring. So utilities always do well in a downturn. Anything that is a remote access, remote, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, those kinds of things that allow the technology to happen, or allow, when I say remote access, I have a client that does remote access for multifamily and large, and there are remote access for commercial, those kinds of things that allow people to come in without touching something. Is another one. And we've been seeing a lot of commercial construction and architecture, civil engineering, those kinds of things are thriving and hiring right now. And I'll think more on it and expand on that question in a little clip at some point for everybody.
And we have a medical diagnostics client that has just had record month. That's
medical.
a record month. And
Thank you.
They're crushing it right now. But you know what? Didn't start out that way. Because when the world went, when the world came to an end in in maybe March or April, when everybody freaked out, they saw their sales really decline in that point because doctors weren't going into the office and patients weren't going to the doctor's office for sure. But they we've gradually kind of built them up and kind of stabilized that condition. And now, like I said, they're having, the last 2 months been record months.
Right, and to that point, I just had a telehealth meeting yesterday, so something that allows, the technology of that, but, and healthcare is another that we've been seeing a lot of searches in, so.
And real estate seems to be having a resurgence as well. People are, they're moving, they realize, I don't need this big house.
A lot of people move.
Or I don't need this house in the city so close to my office. I'm going to buy a house a little farther away. Even if I go in once a week, I can telecommute the rest of the week. And so that seems to be why real estate is seeing a bit of an upturn as well.
That makes sense. I'm so glad that all of y'all came and that we could do this in person. Thank you. And thank you to everyone that's tuned in. I feel like I'm on a TV show instead of a Zoom meeting. But and real quickly, on October 8th, I have rescheduled Ann Laguza, CEO of The Works Consulting. She's going to talk about setting up non-negotiables for your job search. So really critical in the preparation stage. Understand yourself, understand your strengths, understand what you will and won't work for you with a company, and she'll be coming on. It'll be instead of the Q&A with me. So looking forward to that, and thank you everyone for coming. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Jeannette.
Thank you.
Thanks
for hosting.
So much.
Cindi, great job hosting. That was terrific.
Thank you.
Great.
And I want to say thank you for all my behind the scenes 2020 family and my new friends.
Yes. Also, thank you very much, 2020 Exhibits, because this live experience was really, really neat, and what a great pivot that you guys did. So
thank you.
If any of you marketers are looking for a way to really spice up your Zoom thing, this has been a great experience.
This is great.
Great.
So
thank you.
Okay. Thanks so much.